Hello and welcome to today's SGIA webinar, Prospecting for True Print Power. My name is Dan Marks. I'm SGIA's Director of Content Development, and I'll be the moderator for today's program. On behalf of SGIA, I'd like to welcome you and let you know our webinar system allows you to ask questions through your computer. So if you have questions at any time, feel free to submit those and we'll get to those at the end of the formal presentation. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Carla Johans, she's president of Simpson Print and Sawmill Display, and we're delighted to have you here. Carla, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dan. Happy to be here.
And you ready for that next slide?
Yeah, are we ready to begin?
Here we go. Yep.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thanks again, Dan. I'm very happy and excited to share some fundamental principles for sales strategies for your sales reps and particularly for your organizations overall. So today we're really going to talk about how to turn and transform your sales team into more of a carnivore-like behavior. You're really looking to drive results on your bottom line through disciplined results. Is your print organization one that's waiting for sales, or are you an actual sales performance engine leading in sales and production? So today we're really going to talk about some unique print sales strategies and how to utilize and implement them within your own companies so you're selling based on value and not on price. So I should begin with a quick and more detailed introduction about myself, who I am, what do I do, and what do I bring to the table for you all here today. So since 2015, I've been president of a Canadian company located 40 minutes southwest of Toronto. We are a rather unique and very much more than meets the eye organization. I actually have a master's in education and spent 10 years of my life in corporate training, serving many different industries. I share my pride today in teaching as my teaching has served me well to navigate and most importantly to listen. While it was inevitable that I was breastfed from a young age in the print industry and a very healthy dose of capitalism, I think sales never works if you are unable to listen authentically. So I returned to this organization in January after a tragedy left the company without its owner and president. I did not come in as president, but what I did come in was to help stabilize a company that had lost $3 million in revenue within 90 to 120 days. In those earlier days, I did what I do best. I sold one prospect at a time, but at a time when the industry was going through tremendous upheaval on the screen side on account of digital platforms and technology. Within 10 months, I sold just shy of $1 million and did so through a healthy prospect list of almost 400 new leads. Today, I sell close to $4 million of annual business. We have grown our business on all sides of the operation, screen, offset, digital, by 5 to 8% annually, and not a day goes by that my sales team does not prospect 1 to 10 qualified leads a day through a week. So I'm going to share this model of success based on what has historically proven successful for our experience in the industry, and how to position yourself to build partners for longevity and without the fear of devaluing your worth and selling by price. So, are you a sales rep or are you an account production resource partner? Are your sales staff looking for clients or are they looking for partners? And most importantly, do you have transactional sales reps or do you have true account managers? I'm sure many of you on this webinar today, if you are business owners, struggle with maintaining and retaining sales talent. The print industry is not for everyone. It is deadline driven, highly competitive, and no matter how much automation, I think we can all agree it's powered by people. Now, conversely, for these very same reasons, you should be able to attract sales reps who have a career passion for life for the exact same reasons. I actually think this is one of the most exciting industries to sell for. It is highly addictive. No job is the same, and all clients have such unique and evolving requirements. And no other industry provides so much change and high-paced activity and allows you the opportunity to get inside the lens of their own arenas. What kind of sales rep are you really, and what kind do you want to attract? So let's go to the next slide. I'm not sure if Dan can switch the slide. So what is a hunter? I'm pretty sure for those of us in an ownership position that you cannot underestimate the value of a hunter. It's liquid gold. They are liquid gold. So by conventional dictionary, online, offline, good old book, what is a hunter? A person or animal that hunts. The term hunter is used to describe the type of salespeople who are focused on closing deals with new customers. They do their job like they're going out into the jungle, killing something and bringing it back home. One of the key core values I often share with my senior management team and many members of my sales team is that my company, our company, first and foremost, is a sales performance engine that happens to run some printing presses in the back end. For those in operations, I'm not going to lie, this can visibly cause an immediate sense of discomfort. Without a consistent, disciplined business development plan in place, there is no work to feed our presses, and without new business, we will become complacent. Print media and print manufacturing is no longer a necessity. The 80s are over. It's a luxury for companies that spread their marketing dollars across various platforms, such as digital and otherwise. To survive and compete, print has to demand relevant ROI and be smarter and more intelligent for the end result for your customers that you are looking to acquire. Our reps today cannot just show up and expect the work to arrive at the doorstep. Your reps need to be disciplined, industry engaged, and production savvier than ever before. And again, if you're not prospecting, you are not growing, and the results can be catastrophic for your bottom line. So, to sum up this slide, my definition of the print hunter, they are a relentless and strategic mini CEO who builds disciplined and daily cold calling attitude combined with highly comprehensive knowledge of the industry as a whole. So let's talk about how this looks and break it down through a process in the next slide. So let's break down the stages. You have a suspect, you need to convert them into a prospect, and ultimately your company and yourself demands that you convert them to a partner. Activity drives activity. Every company needs leads, and every company must convert those leads into sales. Activity drives activity, daily and weekly, ultimately towards your monthly budget, your quarterly budget. If you do not have a budget, that's a completely separate webinar. You need to have a DNA. You need a blueprint to meet and exceed budget requirements in this industry. So bottom line, momentum equals momentum. So how do we get there? How do we break it down? We'll go to the next slide. The very first phase is the acquisition phase. Before I talk about cold calling, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ICP, the ideal client profile. Very important. You're going to find in your within your particular cultures that there is some troubleshooting when it comes to the ICP, the ideal client profile. Who is your ideal client? Does everyone in your organization know who your ideal client is? And do they ultimately know, as a result, who the best leads are? This messaging does not just begin and end with sales. It should resonate across every department. So, for example, in my company, our ideal client is a brand or a retailer or ideally an original equipment manufacturer who benefits from our all under one roof print consolidated model and our capabilities. We're going to talk about selling to equipment in another slide. So, are your leads erratic? Do you have not enough leads? Do you lack a system to organize and manage your leads through a proper follow-up? Many of our sales opportunities slip between the cracks if there is no system. Do you have a lead scoring system? Can you vet any of your sales reps, and can they bring to the table at your next sales meeting a list of their top 10 A, a list of their B, and a list of their C prospects? How much time is judiciously being spent on A and B versus chasing C? And tracking leads. I hope at this point, most of us have an automated online or offline CRM. Incredibly important to your organization. So let's go into my favorite conversation, cold calling. I'm going to say it, cold calling is everything. You cannot build and nurture a relationship in print from the safety of your Outlook and or your laptop. To be seen, to be heard, you have to be seen. So how do you do this? This is very basic, but completely overlooked. You have to start with finding the decision maker. How do you find the decision maker? You need to call that corporate landline in your ideal client profile list. You need to ask the receptionist or the gatekeeper to kindly direct you to the individual who is best suited to handling print marketing decisions for company ABC. Once you establish that connection, you need to let your prospect know you are personally delivering that media kit and you look forward to them physically receiving it. You are not sending it via FedEx if they are, let's say, within 100 kilometers. You need to create that personal connection. In the event you have an email, let the client know in as few words as possible that you will be physically dropping off a package and you will follow up in 1 week to ensure they've received it. You need to be doing those 5 times a week minimum. If you're new to the industry, you need to be looking at 10 times a week. And again, this goes back to momentum drives momentum. You see new opportunities when you are out in the road. I hate to say it, your car should be your best friend and the most sophisticated office you own. You want to deliver up to 5 to 10 pre-qualified ideal prospects daily. Let's talk about following up the media kit. It takes 6 to 12 times before you make a human connection. The beauty of this industry, and actually not just this industry, is you need to remain persistent, whether it's 6 months or 6 years. What goes around comes around, and when you are operating as a sales professional in such a saturated industry, someone is going to miss a deadline. Someone's going to drop the ball, and the only way that prospect is going to remember you and your organization is through relentless persistence. So, voicemail. This is almost a webinar on its own. Voicemail is the most important tool you have. It is the most powerful tool. I can assure you that 50% of my sales team loathes the telephone. Emails, as we discussed before, it hides the personality of the prospect, who you're trying to build that relationship and build trust with. You need to listen through voicemail to their voice and demeanor. You need to capture their personality so you can work and build brick by brick that relationship. Again, it goes back to listening, mimicking that verbal and nonverbal communication pattern. So a little tidbit of advice that we execute here quite successfully: follow up. When do you time your emails and when do you time your follow-up voicemails? This is actually so critical to success in any highly competitive arena. So for example, before 8 a.m., lunch hour, and after 3 p.m. for truly explosive results. I'm not going to lie, Fridays after 3 p.m. were my most successful opportunities to create a connection and build my business from 0 to $1 million a few years ago. So let's go to the next slide and talk about phase 2, another incredibly important area. Actually the next slide, sorry Dan. We're going to talk about the retention stage. So you have 3 goals within your organization if you want to break it down. You need to get a meeting set up in person. You need to build an opportunity to be awarded an RFQ. And last but not least, you have to activate and convert that RFQ opportunity to a live print project. And if that is your focus daily through your prospecting efforts, you can begin to build the second most crucial part of the entire equation, the retention stage, or what I like to call maintenance and partnership care. This is where you build partners, not clients. So do you know ultimately what is your company's sweet spot? So for example, we are an all under one roof, multiple production format organization. I'm not a one-dimensional company. We drive high resolution screen, we drive UV offset, we drive wide format and small format, print, finishing, and logistics. If I was completely honest, small format digital is not our sweet spot. It is distracting for our organization to look after the sweet core capabilities of our wide format when we're focused on 20-inch work. So know your company's sweet spot. Do you actually have a focused understanding of your core services and abilities that you can powerfully communicate with everyone, your clients, your prospects, your fellow sales and estimators? Estimators are critical to this entire process. Upsell, cross-sell, and resell. Not a day goes by that you're not doing one of these silos. You need to sell to your equipment. You need to exceed client expectations by understanding the power of your equipment. Know your equipment capabilities. So I will share a quick example. Within my marketplace, there is an oversaturation of high-speed digital presses. Our company chose a different lane, and we decided to go and attract the mid-size market. There's too much competition at the high-speed digital arena. So my presses, our SwissQ presses, are not built to meet a 1,500 store demand and requirement. Understand what the limitations of your press are, of all your presses are, whether you're an offset company or a screen printing company or a digital company. Understand the differences not just in speed and square footage, but understand how that matches to your ideal client prospect list. So what do you do once you actually get this in? This is where you have to balance a fine line between acting as an incredibly confident, production-savvy account manager versus maintaining that ability to be a hunter. Yes, you need to be a subject matter expert. When you're a subject matter expert, price is off the table 8 out of 10 times. You want to drive the opportunity to bring your client on site. We are all as salespeople, the companies we work for, the companies we own, they are larger than one person. You want to have a standard touch point for customer service excellence. In my organization, we demand, I say on this presentation, same-day RFQs, but I'm lying. You should, depending on the complexity, you really want to convey a sense of confidence and credibility by driving price submissions right back to the client within 30 to 60 minutes. Following that, you want to make sure that the artwork flows and PDFs are moving within 24 hours to your clients. It's all about maintaining a predictable and consistent workflow. And as a sales rep and an account manager, one that drives credibility and competency, you have to own everything. shipping, logistics, warehousing, kitting is as critical as the print process. The industry today has become far more complicated with an absolute overflowing volume of changes and revisions and copious amounts of information. So manage all of these expectations. These are the touch points in my organization, but do you know where your company excels? We happen to excel in estimating. My pre-press department is strong, so those become the areas that I want to share and engage. We often say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes an entire organization to retain a client. So stay on top of your retention equally. So let's talk about, in the next slide, where you want to find your Oh, actually, before we go into that, I did share in this PowerPoint presentation our facility list. I expect we should all own one. Again, our hidden sweet spot is the fact that we consolidate every aspect of print and finishing under one roof. We happen to exist in the middle of a cornfield, so it's part necessity, but part reality of where we are. So moving back to the next slide, where do you want to find these markets? So we talked earlier about, is this the 80s and 90s? No, of course it's not. Print is no longer a necessity. There's an oversaturation of options in all mediums of advertising, not just print. You need to look for hidden gems. So, depending on your equipment, you need to align your equipment with your ideal client process. I gave you the example earlier of my wide format digital capabilities. Our company is not ideally suited to go after, say, for example, a Home Depot, a JCPenney, a Macy's on the retail side of business. Our sweet spot is a retailer that has between 50 and 200 locations on both sides of the border. Equipment, equipment, equipment. That's where you're going to find your hidden gems. Avoid the big commodity players. In Canada, avoid the largest retailers, avoid the largest consumer packaged goods companies. There are so many emerging players in manufacturing, retail, nameplate identification. Retail should almost be the last stop of where you're seeking these hidden gems. So differentiate yourself through these hidden gems for true competitive edge. Trust me, we all have core strengths and you want to exploit that. Print, I know we've heard it, I don't even like to have to articulate this. Print is not dead. You need to be smarter and more intelligent in seeking out those new opportunities. And again, if you have a new workforce in the sales department, begin where you feel that personal connection to. They are the best foundation blocks. If you lack conviction, you will never generate a connection. And without connection, you will not build trust or retain past the first order project opportunity. When I began in sales in this organization and back in this industry in 2012, every single one of my first $1 million clients that are still with us today, I found a reason to connect with them. I'm probably not going to share half the stories because they're quite humorous, but you have to look around everywhere. So last but not least, the next slide, in closing, I really wanted to share this quote, and I apologize for doing so. I am a teacher by trade, so I can't help myself. Most important information that I wish to share outside of prospecting and the discipline of prospecting is really discussing the ability to sell to your equipment. You need to know not only your own equipment, but you need to understand your competitive landscape. What are your neighbors running? What type of automation are on their floor? If you know this, you will have a much better position to prospect, but to outsell and always to outprice. So you need to own this entire process, the acquisition through to the retention stage, and you absolutely, unequivocally have to commit to this business development. Retention does not happen without cold calling. So quick read over, excellence is an art won by training and habituation. We do not act rightly because we have virtue, but we rather have those because we have acted rightly. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. Ask my salespeople, they know this saying. They work in a very disciplined environment, but I'm pretty confident they might be some of the happiest and most well-compensated salespeople in the industry, and therein lies the success of your company, your organization, and nurturing your sales department. So that's everything. I hope everybody got something out of today.
Well, thanks for the presentation, Carla, and have a couple questions here. I know in some of my discussions with print owners, they've really talked about how sort of the new generation of younger print buyers is harder to reach out to. That sort of building a relationship with them is harder to do. Some of them don't really see the value in that. And have you come across that? And what are some tips for engaging, let's say, millennial print buyers?
Absolutely. So we certainly see the younger generation of brand managers, particularly on the consumer packaged goods side of the business. So their longevity is not always, it doesn't have the same staying power. So generally, I like to align the right salesperson. I know who my best audience is. I align a fellow millennial, generally somebody who has far more energy than I do, with that buyer. Do they love email? Absolutely. You have to balance, again, LinkedIn. You have to balance your emails. You have to listen to the language of your email depending on that audience. And again, the voicemail helps. You're going to know really quick if they're a young procurement purchasing agent or if they're a seasoned veteran. And actually, sometimes the seasoned veterans, they don't like change. A millennial will embrace change for the right reasons.
Okay. And then do you find among some of those folks that is there a right way to help them do their job better? They may be less experienced, they may have different opinions on how things need to go, but how do you make that move to say, I can help you do what you do better, I'm the solution you're looking for?
Absolutely. I think depending on how long they've been in their role, that's why that element of being a production partner and knowing, even if you are working for a company that only has offset presses on their floor, it's your responsibility to know all aspects of print, wide format, screen printing. When you come from that position of knowledge, that buyer, it doesn't matter what age they are. You're doing them a favor and you're making their job that much easier so they can focus elsewhere. They know when they call salesman ABC at Simpson Prints that they're going to be looked after. Absolutely, the same principles apply.
Okay. And then one other question. I really enjoyed your discussion of talking about, doing some industry intelligence on your competitors, on other companies in your geographic area. In terms of, I know it's kind of variable, but like, how do you work to build a list of companies to learn more about? And I know there's geographic areas, there's specialty. What do you look for?
Well, we are in a unique position because we have multiple strategic relationships. We built those relationships early on. They're built on trust, and many of those partnerships, we've opened our doors. We're extremely transparent about our organization's capabilities. So that's step one. You need to build trust. You cannot view the relationship as a competitive relationship or an adversarial one. You have to view it as synergy. We're all in this looking for the same objective. So that's number one. Number two, through that relationship of trust, you're going to understand what his or her sweet spot and capabilities are
Right.
versus your own. And through that, you're going to mesh some synergy and opportunities. 90% of what we execute here daily is handled on the floor, on site, but there's always an element of the manufacturing process because of high volume or the busyness and the capacity on your shop that you do have to farm out. So you want to build a relationship competitively, not from a strategic adversarial one, but one that actually is from a collaborative one. Sure, you can do transactional research, Google, but you're not going to find out what's on their floor without having those discussions. Most of my competitors right here within 20 kilometers, let's say 20 to 40 kilometers in the thriving metropolis of where we're located, we all have an extremely distinct lane, and there's actually far less overlap than there is overlap. So that would really be my answer to how do you uncover those analytics and that data that are going to make you proficient.
Okay. Well, Carla, thanks so much for the presentation today.
You're welcome.
And for those of you who joined us, thanks for being with us. We hope you found the presentation to be informative. Please check out sgia.org for a full listing of our upcoming webinar programs, and we'll be adding our first half of 2020 in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. And with that, that marks the end of today's program. Again, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you online again soon.